Hey everyone, it's Fad. Unfortunately, today I'm not being joined by Lina, but I decided to record an episode aside from our series on the skincare routine of a normal person. And today we're going to be talking about the cosmetic industry and careers in the cosmetic industry. So, I'm going to be giving an overview of the cosmetic industry and whether or not it's a part of the pharmaceutical industry or something separate on its own. I'm also going to be talking about cosmetic chemistry in a deeper sense and careers in this field. So, ranging from becoming a cosmetic chemist, which is probably the most obvious career choice that many people think of when deciding to join the pharmaceutical industry, or you can become things like a product designer, designing packaging, which involves marketing and business. Or you can become an engineer or manufacture products on a very large scale, like producing tons and tons of sunscreen, for example, in a factory. You could also become a doctor and have your own line of skincare products that are quote unquote doctor approved. There are many, many things you can do in the cosmetic and pharmaceutical industry. So I'm going to be delving deeper into that in today's episode. So to start off, let's talk about the difference between the cosmetic and pharmaceutical industry, if a difference exists. So in my opinion, the cosmetic industry has a lot of overlap with the pharmaceutical industry, and it can even be considered as a subfield in the pharmaceutical industry. So pharmaceuticals, what do you think of when you hear pharmaceuticals? You think of drugs, you think of medicine, things that are used for medicinal purposes. You don't think of things like makeup, right? But what is the difference between a cosmetic product and a drug? So in countries around the world, they have their own forms of certifying products as drugs. For example, in the US, they have getting FDA approval to consider a product as a drug, or in Europe, they have their own rules and regulations as well. So can a product be used as a drug despite not having the official drug title? Yes. So, for example, people who are sensitive to retinoids, which are much more potent than retinol, might decide to use retinol instead of like things like differin or adapalene or tretinoin and things like that. أو تعرفون الروكوتان هنا. So so there are many processes that are in place to decide whether a product is a drug or not. However, companies don't really need to sell their products as drugs in order to make profit or help people. So you can still buy things like retinol or acids without getting FDA approval. So the line between a drug and a cosmetic product is very blurry. So that is not really a way to classify something as being a part of the cosmetic or pharmaceutical industry. In my opinion, it's more about the role you play in the industry that determines which side of it you're on. For example, if you're a pharmacist or if you're a cosmetic chemist, you are leaning towards the pharmaceutical side, the science-based side. However, if you're more into packaging, or if you're an influencer who's dedicated to trying and rating products for a specific audience, then you're probably in the cosmetics / marketing business. So it's a very interdisciplinary field, and it's difficult to classify what specific industry it falls under. So we can say that it applies or it fits under two or more industries. So there are many ways that you can get involved in this industry because of the interdisciplinary nature. So the most obvious choice is probably to become a cosmetic chemist, because it's directly related to coming up with formulas for different products, or being involved in making new recipes, basically. So it's like how a chef comes up with the recipes and then people recreate those recipes. So what happens is a cosmetic chemist comes up with a formula for a specific product, and then an engineer, for example, manufactures that product on a much larger scale. And then the product designer designs the correct packaging for that product. And a lot of science, and there's a lot of interplay between the science and the marketing aspects. So for example, when designing a product, you want to make sure, one, that it works, and you want to make sure that it's stable under room temperature conditions, for example. Some products are sold for the purpose of being put in a fridge, which I don't understand. And apparently, there's a lot of controversy when it comes to that. And there's also a time when people would buy skincare fridges and put all their products in skincare fridges. But mainly, products are mainly supposed to be kept at room temperature in like a cupboard or on your sink counter. So there's a lot of thinking that has to go into this. So is the packaging that this product is going to be put in able to keep it stable under room temperature? Will the product separate? For example, if it's an emulsion, will the product separate if I keep it in this condition? There's a lot of things that product designers and chemists have to think of when making products. And then the engineer has to be able to reproduce these formulae on a much larger scale. And that has to be done efficiently for companies to put out or to have a lot of output. And then there's also the marketing and business side, which involves making sure that customers are aware of the product and want to buy it. So this is called brand awareness. So a company usually has a specific brand that they want to maintain and make people more aware of. And this is important for a skincare company to be able to sell its products and have a large customer base. Because if the whole basis or the basis of skincare is to promote ideas like luxury, hygiene, taking care of yourself. So it's very, very important that a business is able to sell this idea or these ideas through their marketing and brand awareness alone. Because to be honest, due to the sheer amount of companies out there at the moment that are selling the same exact products, it's kind of hard to argue that one company is the best for skincare. So it honestly depends on how a product sells itself or how a company markets it. And this is where marketers come in and businessmen and women in general. So they have to be able to think about how they can make the most profit through their business that involves the selling of cosmetics. And since the podcast is more dedicated to science and talking about the science aspects, I'm going to be delving much deeper into cosmetic chemistry and the STEM career paths that are involved in this industry. So I've talked a bit about cosmetic chemistry or cosmetic chemists so far, but let's talk about them a bit deeper. So what do cosmetic chemists do? So cosmetic chemists generally either work in industry or doing research. So you might be asking what kind of research goes on in cosmetics, right? Like, what are you researching, right? Well, there's actually a lot of research that goes into cosmetics because they have to work. You can't sell a product that does not work. So, for example, when sunscreens were becoming a thing, people or researchers had to come up with or find ingredients that are the best for UV protection from UV radiation, right? So they have to do research on different ingredients. And that's how they were able to identify that, for example, zinc oxide, titanium dioxide, or organic UV filters, homosalate, and other chemical filters, that they had to make sure that they were able to work, right? So this is where the research comes in. Or when we're talking about retinoids, how do doctors know that tretinoin is the most potent form of retinoid that you can obtain, or that orally ingesting isotretinoin is more effective is more potent than applying tretinoin topically? A lot of research has to go into these things. And this is where researchers come in, or cosmetic chemists that are dedicated to finding new skincare ingredients and products that can help address skincare conditions. So there's a lot of interdisciplinary work between doctors, for example, physicians, and chemists, because while chemists are much more versed in the chemistry of it all, so how different ingredients would bond together or mix together, and then doctors are more concerned with how these ingredients would affect the skin. And this probably also leads to the field of pharmacology, which is the effect of different drugs on the body. And I touched on this a bit earlier, but cosmetic products can be drugs, they can't be drugs. It depends on the certification that they receive. However, it's generally considered that a product that is used to address a medical concern is considered a drug, even if they're not really FDA approved or certified. But again, the line between a product and a drug is very, very blurry. And it's not that important, to be honest, because companies are still able to sell their products without FDA approval or certification in many places. So it's better to talk more about the ingredients or what the product does than whether it's considered a drug or not. Because if you're using it for medicinal purposes, does it really matter in the end? No, not really. So I talked a bit about sunscreens and retinoids. So what about things like vitamin C? Vitamin C is a very, very unstable product or ingredient. So companies, what do they have to do? They have to do research into how to preserve the sunscreen or the vitamin C and keep it stable under room temperature or like everyday conditions, ambient conditions, let's say. And that's why it's very difficult to keep vitamin C stable for a long period of time. And that's why it goes orange. And a lot of people think that vitamin C is supposed to be orange, but when you buy it, it's supposed to be like a clear, translucent color. So scientists have to do research into how to preserve vitamin C, because vitamin C it can be oxidized really quickly, right? And that's what makes it turn orange. So just to give you an idea of how much research needs to go into cosmetics, and that it's a very much science-based field. And then there's also material scientists who have to research the delivery systems of drugs. This is something I'm very passionate about myself. I'm interested in sunscreens and nanotechnology and how nanotechnology can be used to provide the most effective UV protection. So nanotechnology is becoming more popular nowadays. For example, La Roche-Posay has their really expensive sunscreen that uses nanoparticles. So it's a mineral sunscreen. It uses nanoparticles of zinc oxide and titanium dioxide to provide this UV protection. And the result of using nanoparticles to do this is that it prevents the appearance of a white cast. So this goes to show how sunscreen technology is being improved day to day using science. So people often dismiss cosmetics as a purely superficial, marketing-based, psychology based field. However, it's very much related to science and STEM as a whole. So cosmetic chemists, essentially what they do is they can either do research or they can work in an industry. They can work for a company. And what they do is that they try to come up with formulas that a company can use to make a new product. So for example, the trend at the moment is tinted sunscreens, or making sunscreens that are suitable for all skin tones, mineral sunscreens. So there's a misconception that chemical sunscreens are cancerous or carcinogenic, let's say, because apparently the chemicals get absorbed into the bloodstream, which is a myth, because they do. There are small amounts of chemicals that do get absorbed into your bloodstream. However, you have to understand that the body has ways of removing wastes, and that the chance of getting cancer from a sunscreen ingredient is very, 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 very small. And generally, when there's proof that a ingredient causes cancer, it's all products containing this ingredient are recalled. So something like this happened a few years ago when benzene contamination was found in a lot of sunscreen products, like by companies like Banana Boat, which had to recall some of their products. So you have to understand that these conspiracy theories generally do not have any grounding in science. And what cosmetic chemists do is that they try to improve products. They try to improve existing formulations of products. For example, if a chemist is synthesizing a serum containing glycolic acid, what they might want to do is try to make or alleviate some of the harsh effects that the serum can have on the skin, because glycolic acid is very potent, especially if you use it like for example, daily or something like that. The exfoliating effects are going to be pretty harsh on the skin if the skin barrier is not kept intact. So chemists have to be able to synthesize formulations that find a balance between efficacy and protection. And a chemist working for a specific company will tailor their formulations to a specific company's brand and the vibe that they're going for. So a lot of companies will try to sell the idea of being climate or eco-friendly or being science-based. So chemists will have to fit in with this theme and try to formulate products that cater to the company's objectives. So we talked about cosmetic chemists. What about pharmacists? So when we're talking about medications that are only or that are prescribed by physicians, this is where pharmacists are mostly concerned with. So for example, like isotretinoin, you can't buy isotretinoin at your local Sephora, for example, or pharmacy over the counter. You have to have it prescribed by a physician in order to get this drug. So people are abusing isotretinoin, in my opinion, because people, when they see the first sign of chronic acne, what they do, they try to get a prescription of isotretinoin because it's the fastest and most effective form of acne treatment. It's a retinoid, but again, this depends on the cause of acne. Is it a bacterial? Is it bacteria that's causing it? Is it genetics? Is it a fungus? You have to ask these questions and identify these things when you're going to your dermatologist in order to find the best treatment for yourself. And this is where pharmacists and doctors work together. So doctors are concerned, or dermatologists are concerned with diagnosing skin conditions and prescribing medications that help alleviate or address these skin concerns. So for example, some dermatologists are involved in treating skin conditions like keratosis pilaris, which is like the bumps on your knees that you might have due to keratin accumulation, or chronic acne or fungal acne, hormonal acne. And dermatologists are educated in how to diagnose these things effectively and identify the best treatment for that. So for example, a new treatment or solution, let's say, to fungal acne that has surfaced recently is the use of antifungal shampoo, because in essence the ingredients is the same. It's antifungal ingredients that are killing the fungus or the fungi in hair. So why can't they do the same in the skin? So this is a solution that people have begun to turn to address fungal acne. And then physicians are also involved in identifying like which dose of the treatment to give. So for example, if you're prescribed isotretinoin, your doctor might give you a specific dose for a specific amount of time, because if you use the product for too long, or if you use a really potent form of the product, you might hurt your skin more than you're helping it. And doctors have to make sure that you're not doing this. So this is where the role that doctors play. And then pharmacists, they are involved in synthesizing drugs. So things that are like considered, for example, these isotretinoin tablets or Roaccutane, pharmacists are the ones who make these. So there are labs that are dedicated to making these isotretinoin tablets. So we talked about becoming a cosmetic chemist, a pharmacist, or a dermatologist. So many people are interested in dermatology because that's what most of the skin, or most of the professionals that they are exposed to work in dermatology and medicine. But you can also become a pharmacist, because dermatology also involves a lot of other things like hair, nails, or even diseases involving the skin or hair and nails, the integumentary system in general, the hair, skin, and nails. Some dermatologists are specialized in working with feet. Podiatrists, for example, if you have warts or blisters on your feet or fungi or any of these things, you can consult a dermatologist. So you have to understand that dermatologists are involved in many skin conditions. And obviously you can open your own practice and specialize in a specific subspecialty of dermatology, like acne, or, as I said, feet. So that's where dermatologists work in the cosmetic industry, and pharmacists also are involved in the manufacturing of drugs. But how are these drugs manufactured on a large scale? That's where chemical engineers come in. So chemical engineers, with the idea of becoming a chemical engineer, despite the field being very, very diverse and very versatile in terms of what you can do, chemical engineers essentially take what a chemist does on a very small level and reproduce it on a much larger scale in order to produce tons and tons of a product. So I'm going to be talking about the role of chemical engineers in the biopharmaceutical industry because that's what we're concerned with, right? But the role of chemical engineers does differ. For example, if they're involved in materials or energy, maybe fuels and petroleum, the role of a chemical engineer may differ a lot. However, in the pharmaceutical industry, the chemical engineer is involved in reproducing products on a larger scale and making sure that they are the same products produced in the same conditions but are able to be produced in mass. So, for example, a chemist can come up with this formula for a sunscreen. And this formula will have information regarding how to prevent the sunscreen from separating or becoming unstable. So what a chemical engineer has to do is he or she will find a way or will determine the conditions in which to produce the sunscreen on a large scale in order to produce mass amounts of it for a company to sell, for example. Or for a hospital that needs drugs, a chemical engineer will be able to produce mass amounts of this drug in these factories or in these labs. So that's what a chemical engineer is concerned with. Now, let's talk a bit about the business or marketing aspect. So we went a bit deep into this earlier, but I'm going to talk more about it. So product designer is, I think, the most interdisciplinary of these fields within the cosmetic industry. A product designer has to be educated in engineering concepts related to how to store a product, but they also have to be able to meet customer demand or cater to the needs and wants of customers. So making a product easy to use or making it visually pleasing, aesthetically pleasing, and things like that. So product designer will have to find the sweet spot between functionality and form. So making a product look nice and having it be very efficient to use. So why should you join the cosmetic industry? So you might have a number of reasons for wanting to become a cosmetic chemist or engineer in the cosmetic industry or pharmaceutical industry, or even a physician. Me personally, I want to become a chemical engineer that's involved in developing novel sunscreen technology because myself, I have had a lot of experience with sunscreen. I rely on it to protect myself from the sun because I have a lack of melanin, right? So I'm much more predisposed to skin cancer than other people. So my goal is to make sunscreen that is more effective and also accessible, because a lot of the best sunscreens out there, the most protective ones, are expensive because of the novel sunscreen technology that is being used to synthesize them. I also want to dedicate my career to synthesizing sunscreen that is sustainable for people and the environment, because research has shown recently that some sunscreen chemicals, especially these nanoparticles, this nanotechnology that is used to make these sunscreens, can build up in oceans and it can enter the food chains of aquatic ecosystems. And this can cause a lot of issues and contributes to climate change and water pollution. So what I want to do is I want to be able to find that the balance between effective sunscreens and sustainable sunscreens. And this is an idea of why you might want to join the cosmetic industry. I know people who are just really interested in cosmetics and they want to know what to use, and that's how it initially started for me. I was curious as to what I should be looking for when picking cosmetic products, and that's what led me to finding channels like Lab Muffin Beauty Science or Dr. Dre, who are professionals in the cosmetic industry that are educating people out there who are not professionals about what they should look for in sunscreens, debunking misconceptions, recommending products to use and things like that. So you might have a number of reasons for joining the cosmetic industry, but they are equally relevant. They're equally valid as long as you have a passion for cosmetics and have a passion for making change in the field. Then you should go for it. And even if you're an engineer already or a chemist, you already have your degree in something like business, nothing's stopping you from going into the industry. You can enter this industry from a number of angles. You can you can start your own cosmetics business, your skincare line. You can work with other professionals like cosmetic chemists and engineers and pharmacists and dermatologists to make your business work and sell products that are good. You can also open your own practice as a dermatologist and help people with acne. Or you can become a researcher and work with other chemists to find new sunscreen ingredients that are much more effective than the ones that we currently have. Or you can become an engineer going from, for example, energy to pharmaceuticals. There are a number of possibilities in this industry, and I think that it's definitely worth exploring, especially for those who have a natural passion for it anyways. So that's all I have for you guys today. I hope this was enlightening, and I really, really hope that we see more people in the cosmetic industry, because it's important, and it's something that I believe should be more grounded in science than what it looks like currently. A lot of companies are greenwashing or painting a picture that simply does not exist, that their company is grounded in science while it's not. So I think that everyone should consider this career path if they have an interest in cosmetics. And that concludes this episode of Skin Talk. We'll see you guys next time in our next edition of the skincare routine series, where I'll be joined by Lena, inshallah.